Good morning. Okay, so we have a chef space. That's what we call them. Some people call them low boys. We call them chef spaces. I call them chef spaces. They said yesterday this thing was in the 40s, and what I asked them to do is turn it off overnight. It's 53. They did not turn it off. So if it's frozen up, it's gonna be frozen up, which makes me very sad. I don't hear the compressor running, so I think we're short cycling, or maybe we just have a thermostat problem. Pressure control. Yeah, let's get in. Well, we can see we have been running. Compressor is hot. Like I said, hopefully we just got start components. If it was a dead condenser fan, then we wouldn't be 50. We'd be cooking in there. Okay, so not us. Not us. I turned it off. I was going to start fiddling with it, but when I turn it back on, the compressor started. So what I'm going to do now, while it's running, is I'm going to go ahead. We've got service ports. Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and put my testos on there. Okay, since I'm using my testos, I can tell you the pressure started out fine. We were running about 200 head, 65 suction, but then it pulled down to about 30 suction, and then the system shut off. So given that it wasn't the compressor that dropped out, it was the whole condenser. So we may have a charge issue. I mean, certainly we shouldn't be running that low of suction. I wouldn't think 200 PSI is critically low, but it's only 16 ounces, so you never know. We could have a bad pressure control, which is why when I turned it off and back on, but when it's off now, the pressure should be equalizing. Let's look at what they're doing. Yeah, so that's what's happening. I'm gonna go ahead and replace these with gauges. My amp draw is good. My whole condensing unit's shutting down. So I adjusted this down to 60 with a diff of 30 instead of 90, and she kicked right on. And since we're running 30 PSI right now, it's staying online, but I don't want it to run 30 PSI. I want to get the pressures right. All right, so we're not sure if we have a restriction or what. So what I did is I just pulled the charge. It's 1 pound. So I pulled the charge. Okay, we're pulling 4.5 amps. And I want to see what my head pressure does, or what my suction does, because if we pull down like crazy again and restrict, then I've got to start thinking TXV dryer restriction somewhere. This is a cooler. I'll have to check and see if it's a TXV or a cap tube system. Because we're going to end up starving the compressor back. Hear my fans blazing inside. But it's possible that we're frozen up. I wouldn't have thought so since we showed up and it was in the 50s, right? And it was in the 50s and not cooling, so it should have defrosted. But I'm going to go ahead and prove that we don't have low suction because of we got a frozen evap. All right, so I think the evap is frozen, which explains our low suction. Look at this gasket. And it looks like they just had a gasket company come out and replace them, maybe. But yeah, so this is actually a track issue. Oh, this is actually a drawer issue. So the drawer separating from its track. That track is part of the drawer. So the drawer is not sitting up where it's supposed to sit to seal. And this is why working on these chef spaces is such a pain, because you got to pull the whole assembly out. Okay, let's take a step back for a minute and let's explain how this works, because then this would make sense why we're frozen up. There's no thermostat. There's no solenoid. This is not a pump down system. This is I have a low pressure control, and when my low pressure hits the threshold, it shuts down the condensing unit. It just stops powering it. That's it. So the fans are running all the time inside. Well, it was set to cut out at 30. Well, 30 psi is below zero. I mean, right? So 30 psi of 404 is zero. So ice is living no problem in there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull up the chart and find out. So we know, let's say 65 psi at 404, we know is about 28 degrees. So if we set our cutout for like 60, yes, we're below freezing, but then we set our cut back in at a reasonable, we have to look at physical temperatures, right? Since we're controlling this with pressures, we'll pull up a chart and we will have it drop out at, what the heck was that? I swear I just saw, oh, okay, it was a drip and a reflection. Like, I swear I just saw a flash of something in there. Also, the drain line's not connected, so that's fun. We're gonna readjust the pressure controls after we melt the ice. And again, we'll set it to, come back in at 80 or 90 like it was, but we'll have it drop out much sooner. And then I'm pretty sure you had environmental drama. As you look at these doors, none of them are closing. So you're just sucking in air, and that's what you get after time. So now when she fires up, we'll have some suction pressure. And in return, right? So what's the suction is the refrigerant coming back, right? And so you're starving. The compressor needs a certain amount of suction to cool. Now, it's not designed to run 10 below on this little cooler. That compressor ain't gonna handle that. So now let's see where she stabilizes out. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, I want about a 25-degree coil. So now I have to look at from a PSI perspective. When this gets too low, when do you want it to shut off? I think it was set for 90 and 30, and I think 30 PSI is way too low. But we've got to play the balance. So 80 PSI is 36. So you really need about 85 PSI. 85 PSI coming back as you're cut in is going to be almost 40. So you don't want to get warmer than that, but you want to have time to get the ice melted off. So we're going to set it for between 80 and 85 cut in. I'll have to look at pressures, man. If we have it dropping out at 50 PSI, so if you set it for 85 with a 15 differential, then it'll cut out at, no, what am I saying? 85 with a 30 differential will be 30 to 55 PSI. To be honest, that's probably fine, because you want nice cold coil temps where we are. Let's see where this drops down to during normal operation. This is actually the nice part about starting from zero. I put a temperature probe in there, so I'm going to see when my box achieves 36, 38. But knowing this is going to cycle on and off, right? No defrost, so it has to have an air defrost. It has to have some down cycle time. So, pull it down. Coil 25, let's say when the coil hits 20, we drop out. Then when the coil hits 38, we drop back in. So then you were 20, we're frozen up. We stop, regardless of box temp, we stop. And as our suction line thaws and becomes 38, there's no ice at 38. Then at 38, unit kicks back in, we're going again. So we're gonna have to leapfrog. So I set this 85 and 30, which is 85 and 55 PSI, which means when this gets a little colder, it's gonna drop out. Well, we're only 46 right now. But think about it. Our coil's 21, okay? System drops out, fans keep running, blows 46 degree air over 21 degree coil, which is quickly thawing of its ice, okay? Bringing the suction temperature up, bringing the box temperature down, and once the suction temperature reaches 38 degrees or 39 degrees, which is where 80 PSI is, then this is going to kick back on. So the first cycle, you're always going to notice on an air-cooled system that your condensing unit satisfies even though you're not to temp yet, because we're managing this with coil temps. So similar to if you've watched the ice cream videos, when you turn on an ice cream machine, that barrel freezes, it hits -3 and then it shuts off. Well, your product isn't frozen yet. Right? It takes 2 or 3 cycles of that, and then back up to 17, -3, 17. After 3 cycles of that, we got good product temp. We got the same thing here. So this is, I want to see this satisfy at somewhere between 50 and 55. I have an 85, 55. But it's not super precise with that thing. So I'm going to see where this drops out at. I would be perfectly happy for it to drop out anywhere in here. And then we'll see where it cuts back in at. Watching pressures and then adjusting that as needs be. So this is the annoying where you just sit here and watch and wait and listen. So what I could do also is I could slowly adjust my differential until it drops out. And then we would know we're dropping out at a 19 degree coil. Let's see. Which way we want to go? I'm going to lower my diff. Ooh, I don't like that at all. Alright, so I just adjusted it up till it cut out. So it cut out. Now, listen, it came back on without a compressor. Try a new hard start kit, but damage may have been done. So what got me there was knowing that I think I moved over here. Yeah, I did. Knowing that it kicked back in. It kicked back in and started the condenser, but didn't start the compressor. Now, thankfully, I had the amp clamp on it, so I could see. The fact that it already had a hard start kit on it is scary. Well, 3-in-1, right? Not a hard start, but a 3-in-1. So, a 3-in-1 meant it was struggling before. Now we've starved it. To be honest, you know, leaving it on all night wasn't helpful. Let's see if this does. So here's the thing. When the compressor runs, it's going to run like a champ. I actually dialed the suction lower again so it'll run longer. I called in the part. I got to call in the compressor. get a price, talk to the owner. She's gonna start in temp, but as she cycles on and off, all it takes is one cycle of it not starting. And she'll be out of temp again. Mop all this stuff up out of here. And then we'll talk about, also side note, I'm just in here using the bathroom, but Zaxby's does this at all their stores, and I never thought to do this. This is brilliant. They make this window 37 by 24. So I buy 36s, and then I just silicone the crap out of it. So they did the same thing. They bought 36s, but they put a piece of trim up to hide that big gap on the bottom, which I never thought to do. Better idea. Well, it works down here because it's metal. I'm like, let it drop all the way to the bottom, put your trim up there. I have an ugly, ugly Zaxby's with a ton of clear silicone top and bottom. I put spacers to hold it, construction adhesive, but yeah, they just keep going over old mirrors. Huh. Have to put that one in the bag of tricks. Yeah, baby. But again, it's not gonna stay. I'm not gonna pretend it's fixed. It's not. And definitely, just because of my own, I don't want to call it experience, the mileage I have and the assumptions I make, you know, I did some things very, very poorly on this job, right? I should not have pulled the charge and weighed in a fresh pound. Shouldn't have. I should have truly checked that the evap wasn't frozen first, and I did not. I did not. So don't do that, right? Step one, just like with a walk-in, always make sure the thermostat's calling, make sure your coil is clear. Just because you've got splashing sight glass or low pressures doesn't mean you need gas. So, you know, shouldn't have done that. That was a misstep. But for me, on these units, all the time, you show up and there's a little leak in it, top it off. I don't like topping it off. I pull the charge, weigh in a fresh charge, and now you know what you're dealing with. So if I'm out that pound of gas, I'm out that pound of gas. You know, shouldn't have been my play, but it was. And I'm willing to be like, hey, don't do that. Had I noticed it was frozen up first, we would have never gone that route. But had they unplugged it, I would have been able to just turn it on and start it up. We wouldn't have had that problem. So I'm not blaming anyone else. Buck stops with me, but it is frustrating.